So in the last class, we have discussed about some basic preliminary talks about switchgear, especially the definition, necessity of switchgear. Those are the things that we have discussed. Okay. So today we will continue this introductory class. So let us begin with the functions of switchgear and protection devices. So there are three basic functions of switchgear in power system, which can be provided by the switchgear devices, and these are named as electrical protection, electrical isolation, and control. Okay. So what are those things? Okay. The first of all is the electrical protection. It is actually indicated that the switchgear devices will interrupt the circuit that is experiencing overloading while still allowing currents to flow it and with the unaffected circuits. Okay. Now I'm giving you some example like this. For example, let us consider this is your distribution transformer. Okay. This is 11 by 0.4 kV. You know, this is the supply transformer that we are connected. Okay. So this is one circuit. This is one phase. Some consumers are connected here. This is another phase. Also, some number of consumers are connected here. This is another phase. Also, some consumers are connected there. Okay. Now, you see the consumers will use a protective device when the supply is connected to it from the distribution transformer. Okay. Now, for some reason, this phase is experiencing some overload. Overload means, for example, the voltage and current flowing through this phase is little bit larger than it was supposed to be. Okay. Now, whenever this phase is experiencing some overload, that means uh, a a current with the nominal current, a greater current which is larger than the nominal current will flow through it. Now, if the current greater than the nominal current, which is actually overload current, flows through this circuit, and eventually it flows through the appliances. So if you allow it, eventually after some certain times, your appliances or equipments get damaged. Okay. So what we do here, or what this switchgear devices do here, does here, it's very simple. You have used the protective devices for your own good. So now your switchgear devices will cut off these portions. Okay. It will simply cut off this phase. But rest of the other circuit, which is not experience any kind of overload or any kind of other abnormal situations, they are actually getting full current or full power. Okay. So that is the things is expressed by this first point, which is actually called as electrical protection. Uh, the second one is also considered as electrical isolation. It is quite similar to the previous one, but except it provides isolation. You see, look at here. Whenever some abnormality is found here, okay, let's take another example. Okay, say for example, this is one of the transmission line. You have a bus over here, right? Some buses are here. Okay. Now, for some reason, a fault has been occurred at this bus. Okay. So whenever a fault has been occurred at this bus, this whole portions should be isolated from the main power supply. It should be isolated. Okay. Are you getting my point, guys?
Yes, sir. Okay.
So this portion should be isolated. Okay. But the remaining portions, as I said earlier, the first one, protection, it provides protection. Remaining portions should run with the normal situations or healthy situation, and normal power flow will continue to flow over there. Now, this isolation is actually provided for mainly two reasons. First of all, the consumers of the equipment, the consumers of the equipment associated with these portions should be saved from any kind of overcurrent that will be flow due to the uncertainty or due to the fault through it. like if I say the fault, a short circuit fault has been occurred here, right? That means almost 3 times nominal current will flow through this transformer, obviously. That isn't it? So what that reflects? That reflects this transformer, which is experiencing 3 times more current due to the faulty conditions, may get damaged. So you have to stop the current flow, right? So how do you stop the current flow? Simple. The protective devices associated with these portions of transmission portion will be cut off, will make these portions isolated or make this portion open, and thus stopping the current, stopping the flow of the fault current through these portions. Okay. Now there is another consequences of that. What is that? For example, a short circuit has been occurred here, right? So you cannot keep this short circuit over whole period because a fault is uncertainty. Okay, fine. What happened after fault? What is the considerations? You send some maintenance people over there. Okay, fine. Somebody go there, check what happened. He checked that a short circuit fault has been occurred, right? Then what he does? He removes the fault, he clears the fault, and eventually make the transmission line or distribution line or whatever the power system you are protecting, make that power system is quite normal, look like again. Now, these maintenance people has to work directly on the power people to remove the fault, isn't it? So if this portion was connected to the power system, if this portion was connected to the power system, two consequences could have been happened. First of all, the equipment get damaged. That's one portion. Second portion is that whenever you would send some people over here to do the maintenance, that person's life would have been raised because he cannot work on a power system which is connected online. All right. So you have to make sure that being an engineer, whenever you do some maintenance to whatever the tiny power system it is, make sure that that power system is isolated. All right, because you cannot take the risk. So that is the thing is actually termed in here that electrical isolation is provided mainly two reasons. First of all, electrical isolation at the faulty section is done because of the what I say because of the safety of the equipment associated with that particular zone. And second one is that the fault during the faulty situations, isolation is must because the clearance of the fault should have been done by the maintenance people, and for the safety of the maintenance people lives, that particular portions of the power system should be isolated. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir. Understand.
Okay, do you have any question after this?
Maybe
Do you have
no, sir.
do you have any question up to this? Anyone? Anybody?
No, sir.
Okay, let's look at the third point, which is actually called as control. It enhances the system ability by allowing more than one sources to feed a load. Yes, obviously. The fact is that do you have any idea about parallel operations or interconnected grid systems? Do you have any idea about interconnected or distributed grid system? Anyone? Talk to me. Do you have any idea about interconnected or distributed grid system?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Interconnected grid system and distributed grid system, there is difference. Like if you talk about interconnected grid system, this is the national grid. There will be a national bus bar. Okay. There will be a national bus bar that will be obviously three phase. So in this bus bar, all the load center is connected directly or indirectly, or all the generations are being connected, right? That means a national grid, if it is a interconnected in a country, so all the loads are being derived from the national grid. Okay, that's very simple. You can step it down by using lots of substations. Okay, that's okay. And also all the generating stations in that particular country will have to connect at that particular national grid. That will be also connected to some substations, okay, or grid substation. That means uh, a central network has been established between the generating stations and between the loads, and this is only one. So this is we called, sometimes we termed as national grid, okay, or grid line or grid bus bar, whatever the term is. But whenever it is interconnected, you have to assume that all the loads connected somehow through it, and all the generating stations is also connected to it. Another way of this type of grid becomes, which is actually called distributed grid. So distributed grid system is that you divided your country into some sections, okay? Like for example, I have Dhaka zone in my country, I have Rajshahi zone, I have Sylhet zone, I have Chittagong zone, many zones. So if my country had a policy of distributed grid system, what would happen? I would have a generating stations that would supply only Dhaka zone only. I would have a generating station which could have supply only Rajshahi zone, or I would have generator which will supply the load only Chittagong zone. That means the generating stations would have been supplied for a particular divisions or particular zones in a country, and none of these was linked. You see, there was no link between the Rajshahi stations or generating grid, or Dhaka grid to Chittagong grid, or Dhaka grid to Sylhet grid. There was no direct connections. There was no establishment. So this type of grid system is often termed as distributed grid system. Okay, have you got the point?
Yes, sir.
If it was interconnected, that means everybody was connected by a central grid. If everybody was connected by a central grid, that was called national grid. Okay. Now, let's talk about national grid or interconnected systems. Often it is difficult to meet the demand of a consumers from a particular power stations. It is often it is often considered as very bad practice. Rather than a number of generating stations, they connected with each other through the parallel operation condition to fulfill the demand of the load. Like for example, whatever here it may be connected to 3 generating stations, okay, or 4 generating stations. All are connected here to meet the need of the consumer of a Dhaka zone, for example, right? So you see, you are now actually fulfilling the demand of the load in this zone through number of some generating stations. Okay. Now these number of generating stations, whenever you are connected to the parallel condition operations, you know from the machine process that at least 3 vital conditions has to be fulfilled. You cannot connect two generators parallel until you make sure that a parallel operation is running between the generators. Okay, what are those things? You know that the voltage of each generator should be same, the frequency of the each generator should be same, and as well as the phase sequence of the each generator will be same. So you have to make sure that whenever you are trying to put some generators in parallel, uh, there is these necessary conditions are being fulfilled. Okay, only then you can be able to connect. Now what happens, for example, what happens, you see you have connected 4 generators in parallel. These 3 are connected in proper synchronization, but somehow this 4th generator is out of synchronization or out of parallel operation. So what will happen? So if you allow this generator connected to these portions where other 3 synchronized generators are connected, then it may cause a serious trouble on the distribution network, right? And that will result in blackout of this particular distribution network. So what you have to do, you have to check before connecting this generation station into a bus bar, into the parallel operations. Before you do that, you have to check, you have to you have to pass through these generating stations with some quality checking of synchronizations. Okay, so if it is passed, if synchronization test among all the generating stations be successful, then you will be able to connect with the distribution network. Otherwise, one single what I say unsynchronized generator that will be connected in the parallel operations may cause the fault in the grid itself, and which may result in blackout. That means none of the consumers will get power, because causing this problem, a major fault will happen at this distribution at this grid line, and it will actually eventually cut off all the generating stations. Okay, so that is actually, it is actually called by this control. So yes, you have some significant control of connecting the generating stations for feeding the load. Okay, and that control must be provided by the switchgear devices, and that is actually happen. You see, all the generators will be connected to this route through some switchgear devices that will check that whether synchronization has been fulfilled or not. Okay, understood, guys?
Yes, sir.
Have you got my point?
Yes, sir. But sir, question, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, what is the difference between these two process, these two grid system?
Grid system, there is big difference. Yeah, I think we should be learned from power station courses. Okay, some of these that in interconnected grid system, reliability of the service continuity increases, right?
Yes,
For
sir.
example, if these zones are isolated from each other, right? If the zones are isolated from each other, so if somehow a fault happens across these generators, or let's put another example. For example, for this Dhaka zone, two generators have been supplied. Okay, two generators are being connected to fulfill the need of the consumers of this Dhaka zone. Okay, and your design is distributed, isn't it? So what happens now? For example, due to some reason, for example, one generator or both these generator has been out of order. Now what will happen to the consumers? Consumers will get power or not?
No power, sir.
The consumers will get no power, isn't it? But if it was interconnected, like this, then what would happen? Whenever the consumers do not get the do not get the power from this local supply, whenever this local supply has been out of order with some reasons, then no problem, some other generating stations which are also connected to this national grid will continue to flow the power into this zone, and thus the consumers will able to get the power. So this is how you increase the reliability of the service continuity for the consumers through this interconnected grid system. But even there is another disadvantage of this interconnected grid systems, right? What is that? It is little bit more costly. You have to connect additional transmitting line with all the to the whole country. So this will eventually cost huge amount of money. All right. So this type of advantages and disadvantages there are still for interconnected and distributed grid system. But again, uh, it depends on the country's policy, especially political policy, that how your country should run. And according to that, some countries they actually go for interconnected, some countries go for distributed, but mostly interconnected grid system arrangement has been occurred. But countries with, for example, a countries with lots of island, okay, like West Indies, it has many islands surrounding it, right? So it is difficult to connect the whole country of that particular region through some interconnected grid system. That will be difficult because you have to you have to connect the transmission line to the oceans, so that is more difficult to achieve. So there at that particular situations, distributed grid system is more suitable, and that is often adopted. Okay, understood?
Yes, sir. Understand.
Yes, sir.
Any more question? Any more question, guys? Do you have any more
Maybe no,
question?
sir.
So let us go to the next slide. Okay, these are the four essential features that that a switchgear devices must have to accommodate. Reliable operation. Obviously, your switchgear devices has to be reliable enough in its operations. So, and it should be, or the consumer should be reliable at that particular switchgear devices. Okay, so reliability is the first operation or first essential feature that has to be fulfilled by the switchgear device. Then discrimination ability. Discrimination ability of switchgear devices is very simple. It is actually like that. That okay, fault. Let me show you something. For example, three zones are here: zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. For example, this is zone 1, this is zone 2, this is zone 3. Okay, so all these zones have switchgear devices. All these zones have switchgear devices. Okay, now for a fault happened at zone 2. So whenever fault happened at zone 2, there should not be any disturbances in zone 1 and zone 3 because these are the healthy zone. So the switchgear devices has to isolate this zone 2 from the power system while remaining other healthy system connected to it. So that is actually called the proper discrimination ability. Now, due to some due to some situations at zone 2 or due to some fault at zone 2, if your switchgear at zone 1 would have been worked and isolating zone 1, then I could say that the discrimination ability of these switchgear devices was not so good because fault has been occurred at zone 2. This zone should have been isolated from the system, but without doing that, another zone was tripping out, another zone was out of the order. So this could have been a serious problem. Okay, so that is actually said by this discrimination ability, that a switchgear must be discriminate between the faulty section and the good section. Obviously, which one is faulty and which one is good section, there should be properly discriminated by the switchgear devices and the necessary actions according to that. Okay, understood?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Any question? Any question up to this? Then the fast operation, obviously, this switchgear devices has to be fast enough because there is no provision for slow operation. Remember that whenever fault occurs, the more you allow the fault current in this path, the more you create an opportunity to damage your equipment. As simple as it is. Very simple task. Whenever fault occurs at some situations or at some zones, the first objective is try to isolate that faulty section, try to cut off that faulty section, or try to open that faulty section to stop the fault current as fast as possible. Because the more you allow the fault current flowing through that faulty section, the more probability of damaging the equipment. Okay, so that has been said. Your switchgear devices should not be slow working; it should be rather than very fast working. Okay, and the last one is the provision for manual control. All right, what is these things? Let me give you an example over here. For example, this is your load. Okay, and this is a circuit breaker. What is circuit breaker? I will come to it. Now, this circuit breaker is operated by an electronic circuit. For example, this circuit breaker is operated by an electronic circuit. That circuit will help this circuit breaker to turn off and make this circuit or make this portion open during any abnormal situations. Okay, that is how we do. But for some reason, a fault has been occurred at the load side. So your circuit breaker or your switchgear devices which is connected over here is supposed to be open and to make the load section isolated from the remaining power system, isn't it? That's the policy, right? But
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
that circuit breaker will be open with some sequential work of some electronic circuit. Now, for some reason, this electronic circuit is damaged and it is not working properly. So what will happen? That means failure of this electronic circuit will result in failing in opening of the circuit breaker also during the faulty section, right? Isn't it? So what will happen until you open this circuit breaker, the fault current will continue to flow, and eventually this huge amount of fault current flowing for a larger time will eventually damage your load section, obviously do that. So what you have to do, you also have to have a manual provision over here. For some reason, if failure in automatic tripping uh, happens, then you have to have some manual operating principles or manual control. Through that manual control, you can manually turn off the circuit breaker. Okay, that means, and backup arrangement will be there. For some reason, if any, for some reason, automatic operation fails, then your protective devices should have been at least capable of manual operating. So that has been said here, provision for manual control. Switchgear must have a manual control capability in case of any electrical or electrical circuit failure. In case of any automatic failing operations, the switchgear must have a manual control capability. So these are the 4 essential qualities that a switchgear devices must possess in order to be considered to be a good switchgear devices. Understood? To say that this switchgear device is good, that switchgear devices should have at least these 4 essential features. If so, then we can term that particular switchgear as a good switchgear, okay, a reliable switchgear. Understood? Understood?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any question after this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead. Go for the question. What is the question?
Sir, what makes damage switchgear itself?
I'm sorry.
What makes damage the switchgear itself?
I'm sorry. I'm not getting you. Say it again clearly.
Sir, for example, we understand if the our system is damaged, we have to use switchgear. So what happens if, for example, a circuit breaker or any switchgear device has damage, and what makes damage to the circuit
We
breaker?
will discuss those things. Okay, we'll discuss those things. Wait,
Uh,
we'll discuss those things.
sir.
Any other issues? Do you have any question after this? Okay, so another slide left. A switchgear has 2 type of components. Normally, one is called power connecting components. Power connecting means circuit breaker, switches, fuse, lightning resistors. Those are actually used to open or used to close the power line. That is actually called power conducting components, and control components such as current transformer, potential transformer, protective relays. That means detection part. Okay, there will be 2 types of component. One is actually relevant to the detection. It will detect whether the power system is operating in normal condition or abnormal condition, and another is that part associated with the detect part, that after detections some switchgear will actually work to open or to close the power system, to isolate or to energize the power system according to the instructions of the detection part. So that is actually named as power conducting component. So we learn those things. Okay, what is the essentiality of your sensing devices, what is circuit breaker, what is relay, we'll learn this. Okay, so power conducting means the switchgear
Okay, sir, inshallah.
the switchgear element which will close or open open a particular power system to energize or de-energize that, and control system or detection part actually which senses whether the power system is operating in normal condition or abnormal condition. Okay, that's the thing. Understood?
Yes, sir, understand.
Any more question? Do you have any question?
Yes, sir, I have a question, sir.
Go ahead.
Sir, we know the protection devices. We know in the power plant when we produce for the electricity, sir, we use some protection devices in the different places.
Yes,
How we can detect is that how we can know if the one device can damage or failure. How we can use
there will be multiple backup protections. Okay, I will come to this point.
okay, sir.
There will be multiple backup protections. We do not rely on one single protections in the power system. Okay, because we know that it may happen that particular protections may not work properly due to some failing in the operations or failing in the mechanism. So what we do, we rely on multiple backup protections. So if one protection fails to protect, then another one will eventually do that thing. Okay. So multiple protective layers actually given in the protection of the power station. All right. Understood?
Yes, sir. Understand, sir.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Anybody want to ask anything? If yes, then go for the question. Otherwise, I will end today. Do you have any question, guys?
Yes, sir.
All right, then see you in the next class, inshallah.
Okay, sir. Inshallah.